Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Woodard, and I did the Walling Off or Welcoming In case study. So just an overview of this case study. It provided a fictional situation in which a school culture committee is meeting to discuss some language that's happening among the students. Members of the group discuss the topic, and this group is made up of the social emotional learning coordinator for the school. His name is Rob Lewis, and a team of teachers, parents, and the principal. This group is finishing the draft of guidelines for strengthening and evaluating school culture. The conversation opens up with creating an image of a situation that's happened in a classroom. A student is dealing with some struggling relationships among her peers because her family supports Trump. And so Mr. Lewis is just sharing about the time he's spending with these students and trying to help with communication and understanding between them. Several members have shared their view on comments being made by students and the feelings students have towards others with different political views. One example that happened in a classroom was in the kindergarten class, and a group of students were building a wall with blocks and started chanting to build that wall or build the wall. And this became a teachable moment for the teacher present in the classroom. Eventually, during this discussion, a parent kind of chimes in and discusses how the school should be a political-free zone because this teacher has presented in the classroom about, accepting different races and political backgrounds. And during this conversation, Rob, who is the SEL coordinator, asked, well, how is it possible to know how to be political, have a school be a political free zone when these situations are not planned? They just happen to take place. So they discussed their non-negotiables, which include no posting things that exclude students based on race or other defining features, ensure a safe environment where students, where everyone is loved and cared for, politically neutral, and cultivate respect for different perspectives, and call out bullying. Eventually, this case study kind of wraps up with the principal saying, that's great and all, but what's our policy? So this is an example of a situation that could really be a real thing happening in classrooms, and it's difficult to work through these to please everyone. I think the examples we read in this section are things that we might encounter at school, so it's important to know things we could handle them, or ways we could handle them. So the law and ethics, so freedom of speech obviously is something we hear a lot about when it comes to these kind of interactions. So freedom of speech is defined as the right to express any opinions without censorship or restraint. Along with this is I posted the Kansas anti-bullying laws. They can be found at the link I actually posted at the bottom of my screen. So the way they define bullying is an intentional gesture or intentional written, verbal, electronic, or physical act or threat either by any student, staff member, or parent towards a student, or by another student, staff member, or parent towards a staff member that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive that such gesture, act, or threat creates an intimidating, threatening, or abusive educational environment that a reasonable person under any circumstances knows or should know will have an effect of. So some of the effects of this are harming a student or staff member, whether physically or mentally, damaging a student or a staff member's property, placing a student or staff member in reasonable fear or harm to the student or to the staff. So in analyzing this case study, I had to do quite a bit of reading through different topics, different articles I found, as well as the provided materials. So in analyzing this topic, I looked in some different resources. I looked over the Kansas Educators Code of Conduct, which covers the responsibilities to the student, the district, and our profession. Although it's a good resource, I felt like I needed more insight, and so I had to look up some more resources on like how to really handle a situation. Because we can say, like, we know how we should handle it, but when you're in the moment, what really are some strategies we should be doing? So, when reading through the article from the Americans Psychological Association, I like the bullying and school climate information and introduce the consequences of bullying and school climate that affect students and what can be done to prevent these actions. So some of these included school-wide focus, training and intervention, and promotion of respect. So school-wide focus, this is an increased supervision and promotion of pro-social behavior. Training, this is training that takes place for students, teachers, school staff, and community members based on learning about bullying and different ways to handle it. Intervention is can take place with students who are at a heightened risk, and then promotion of respect for individual differences and overall norm of tolerance. So this is just everyone leading by example and saying this is not a place where we tolerate bullying, and so you wouldn't see people who are leading by example acting out or showing signs of them being a bully, So another resource I utilized, which was one of the optional readings, was called Bullying in Schools and What to Do About It by Ken Rigby. He talks about how you've identified bullying when it's taking place, and then what do you do with that? That's when the 3 approaches can come into play. So 3 of the approaches he talked about are moralistic approach, legalistic approach, and humanistic approach. So the first one, moralistic approach, is by forcibly stating the values and the moral position of the school as they apply to bullies, and then the approach that requires students to conform to the stated and understood values of the school. So kind of just like we talked about when we promote the promotion of respect, like we're leading by example. These are our morals that we have in the school building. These are our expectations. So the next one, this one, when this legalistic administration in many cases is involved quickly. So a set of rules in which bullying is expected to be familiar. These are commonly described as sanctions. There may be little or no moralizing. The aim is to allow the law even-handedly. So this is kind of more about behavior management policy. And as part of the procedure, parents may be invited to attend, and future consequences will be outlined for the continued behavior. In the event of extreme physical bullying and injury, formal charges may be laid against the delinquent. The last one, I'm sorry. So I also, although it seems like there's a lot of advantages to both of these, I also included the disadvantages of them. So there's some of the good things that could come from doing this is it sends like a clear message to the student of what we're expecting out of you. And then these are very clear outlines and guidelines of what happens when you do not follow our expectations and you do something like this. Some of the criticisms for this, like, although like penalty might make a student think twice about acting on that bully behavior, it may not make too much of an impact to people who might be carrying on with this behavior regularly. Like it's not that big of a deal. And the effectiveness of the approach, it depends a lot on the student's perception of what the risk is involved in the bullying of someone. So this isn't necessarily a good long-term solution for someone that is bullying another person. So humanistic, this refers to the bully more as a person. So that person, as much as the person being affected by the bullying, is still a person. Each deserve respect. which I think is important to remember. We're all people and deserve to be treated the same. We also encourage behavior change, which can be done with the counselor and hopefully with some long-term solution, opposed to like the previous way. This hopefully would be a long-term effect on the student. This approach really appeals to me because of the variety of ages and I have in my building. We have 7 through 12, and I feel like getting kind of to the bottom of where this is coming from is a lot more important to get a long-term result than just a punishment or consequence for the bullying behavior. So some of the reasons this is beneficial, like I said, thinking of this student, that they're still a person, even though they might have done something that does not meet our expectations. It's not good. They're still someone that needs our respect and is probably needing help to change. And this would have more promise to be a long-term solution because and I know that it has to be, they have to want to change and things like that. So changing is difficult, but I think with the staff wanting to provide these resources, it could be a good thing. And then these are resources I used for my research and understanding, and thank you for your time.